Welcome again. And after our short break, we can come to the second part of the agenda. And let's welcome Professor Eva Hartai from Institute of Mineralogy and Geology in Hungary. Eva is the coordinator of ENGIE project. Also, she was a coordinator of panel of experts on education from 2011 till 2019, and she's going to talk us today on the subject of how to engage young people in geoscience, lessons learned from the ENGIE project. Eva, it is very nice to see you. Your floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think that you can see my screen now. Please confirm.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So my name is Eva Hartai. I am an honorary professor. Maria only mentioned that Institute of Mineralogy and Geology. Actually, this institute belongs to University of Miskolc in Hungary. And in the following, I would like to speak about an EU-funded project which had very similar aims as your project, the gift. The main aim was to raise the interest of young girls for geoscience. And the project itself is called ENGIE. A few words about why ENGIE was initiated. Several studies prove that diverse working teams are more creative and innovative, but geosciences and the related engineering disciplines are traditionally dominated by men. That is why in the ENGIE project, in the ENGIE project, we aim to raise the interest of young girls for geosciences and the related engineering fields. And this way, we would like to improve the gender balance in these professions. It's an EIT raw materials funded project, and it had a very large consortium. The consortium included 25 partners from 21 European countries. I mentioned gender. Gender is only one aspect of the project, but the other aspect is that the general geoscientific knowledge in society is very limited. But this knowledge is essential to understand where resources such as minerals, energy, water, or even food come from, or how to better prepare for and how to mitigate natural hazards. All of them are very important, and to respond to these challenges, we developed this ENGIE project, and the whole work started with a baseline assessment, where we are now. This baseline assessment started with a Europe-wide survey, 21 European countries. A lot of students and teachers were involved. We wanted to know how these young people in secondary school, how much they are interested in geosciences. And related to this baseline assessment, we also organized a lot of workshops, altogether more than 130 workshops with invited female geoscientists in order to know their motivation and their experiences as being female in a male-dominated profession. Then we started the ENGIE actions. I will speak about that in details because this is the main core of the project, I can say that. And we also carried out an impact assessment. At the end of my my talk, I will tell something about as well. And we also have a vision. What is next? This picture illustrates the most successful workshop where we had 18 really high-profile invited female geoscientists, and they talked about their motivation, experiences, and based on that, we created a study. Not only this one, but we created several studies on the status of geoscience in Europe, best practices in teaching STEM subject, and so on. All of these reports are available from the project website, and we also created the NG action plan. Actions started in the second project year. Altogether, it was a 3 years long project. Action started in the second year. Numerous actions. More altogether, during the project lifetime, we had more than 200 events organized in these 21 countries by 25 project partners. What kind of actions? Outdoor events, science club events, field trips, the NG sections of Girls' Day, University Open Day, the Researchers' Night, and lots of other kinds of activities. Webinars were also a part of these actions, and especially during the COVID period, this was the main tool to reach these young people. So altogether, we organized more than 100 webinars, partly in English, partly in national languages. And we also organized the NG video contest for girls with a great interest. Here you can see the finalists, and it was amazing to see the commitment and professionalism of these young girls. And we also organized the NG for Geodiversity photo contest. This was not only for girls, boys could also contribute. Very professional contribution we received. And we realized that when these young people, especially the young girls, start to think about their career, role models can play a very important role in this process. And that's why we created 10 videos about so-called role models. These are outstanding female geoscientists. And we also issued the NG magazine, bi-monthly NG magazine, and created brochures and translated these beautiful GS booklets, which is about pioneering female geoscientists. So we translated it into a lot of European languages. Also created video animations and the NG movie, which was selected to the best 50 from the 1,000 submissions at the Earth Futures Festival. And we also created a course, an online course. It is still available from the project website. This is a methodology course, and the aim was not to provide a general geoscientific knowledge to secondary school students. Secondary school student is the target group. Not students, teachers, sorry, secondary school teachers is the target group. We didn't want to provide a general geoscientific knowledge because there are lots of this kind of courses. Instead, we focused on topics which have high relevance and high importance, hot topics in these days. So geothermal energy, climate change, natural hazards, and so on. And we invited experts to provide their video presentations, and also other materials are available from the project website, as I mentioned before. And the aim with this course is to help teachers teach geosciences in an engaging and attractive way. I mentioned that we carried out an impact assessment in order to know the impact at all, and also in order to find out what kind of actions were the most successful. I will refer back to this point later. ENGIE was a successful project. I can proudly say that, because in 2022, ENGIE received the EIT Success Story title, and me as the coordinator, I was nominated for the EIT Women Leadership Award. Unfortunately, I didn't win, but I am very honored to get to the best 8 in Europe. As for the impact, it's huge, because with these ENGIE actions, we reached 800,000 people in Europe. This is really a huge number. And we also have a vision that due to the project and due to our actions, not only the gender balance will improve in the raw material sectors, but also that there will be a wider societal awareness of geosciences. And we identified the methods, the best methods for orienting young people towards the given profession. In our case, it's the geoscience profession. And we found that the most popular actions were the contests and the field trips. So that's why I think that not only the real field trips, but the virtual field trips you create, these are very good tools and very good approach to provide this basic geoscientific knowledge. That was all from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Eva, for your inspired presentation and for your efforts in NC project, which is a success story for you, for EFG, for a project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stop sharing your, thank you. And now let me call on Xavier Juan, who is the EGU field officer in Spain, to make his presentation, the Geosciences Education Field Officers Program and EGU Global Teacher Training Project.
Okay, thank you. I will share my screen. I hope you can see my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
yes.
We can see. Thank you.
Thank you. The Geoscience Educational Field Officer for Spain, and this is an EGU, a project of the European Geoscience Union, a global project about teacher training. I'm the GFO, Geoscience Educational Field Officer for Spain. And this is a project that was born in 2019, inspired by our master, our leader, who recently died, the man in the upper picture to the left, Professor Chris King. And in the first stage, we were nominated 6 field officers, 4 from Europe and 2 from outside Europe that were funded by the IUGS. From left to right, these are the representatives of the GIFOs from India, Italy, Morocco, myself, Portugal, and France. Despite the COVID pandemics, we were very successful. We had to do many workshops online, which we don't like. We prefer the face-to-face workshops. But due to its success, we promoted 13 more field officers that were trained in my city, in Barcelona. And the bottom picture, you can see the family photo of all the field officers up to the moment. Apart from the previous, we have from outside Europe, and Europe, we have representatives from Albania, Burkina Faso, Chile, Colombia, Estonia, Germany, Greece, India, Malaysia, Romania, Togo, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. As you can see in this map, we have in yellow the first field officers, 4 in Europe, 1 in Morocco, 1 in India, and the 13 in red, the 13 new field officers. 2 in South America, 2 in Asia, and the rest, 2 in Africa, and the rest in Europe. These are as this is an European project, I will show you the field officers of Europe from left to right and from top to bottom. We have the representatives of Albania, Turkey, Romania, Greece, many Greek teachers in this meeting. So the Greek field officer is Mr. Fotis Danaskos, and Portugal, Italy, France, Estonia, United Kingdom, Germany, and myself. We provide workshops for teachers as the strategy of the European Geoscience Union is that if we teach to improve the public awareness of geosciences, if we teach students, if we teach a group of 30 students, we reach 30 students. But if we teach teachers, then we reach a larger audience of students. We also know that many teachers, for instance, in my country, that have to teach geoscience are not very confident with geosciences, because they have for instance, most of them have a biological background and don't feel secure, don't feel safe when they do some geoscience activities. So we promote these workshops, very practical workshops, to raise their confidence with the teaching of geosciences. How are our workshops? They are interactive. Our activities are very practical, simple, and they require a maximum of 1 teaching time. And many of them, you can use them with your students in 10 minutes or a quarter of an hour. The materials are very cheap, very easy to obtain, or are part of the normal equipment of any lab or any school. And our topics cover more or less all the fields of knowledge in the geoscience, as you can see at the bottom of this slide. In my case, for instance, I have to cover with a not very big budget. I have to cover a very big territory, because Spain is one of the biggest countries that participates in this program. As you can see, I'm based in Barcelona, and I have run several workshops. You can see here enlarged in my area, and I have scheduled several more across the country. Tomorrow, for example, I will travel to Zaragoza, and next week I will go to Valladolid, Zamora, and Madrid. It's quite hard to do this, because there is a lot of kilometers that I have to run to do these workshops. Of course, they are all in a voluntary way. We're not paid for that. We only get our expenses paid. So our workshops are based in the CASE methodology. CASE stands for Cognitive Acceleration Through Science Education, a program that was tested in the 90s in the UK and was very successful to improve the knowledge of science among students and not only the knowledge of science, but also other subjects. I will not enter in detail of this methodology. There's enough literacy if you want to look at it, take a look at it. So I have heard from previous speakers that as we cannot travel many times, we cannot travel to the places that are interesting from the point of view of geosciences in the field, we can use the virtual reality or augmented reality. But we can also use, as we do in our workshops, models, analogic models, very simple. And this, we do this because the geosciences that studies are studied by the teachers of geoscience are usually or many times too big to be studied normally, or they are too far. We had to travel thousands of kilometers to see them. Maybe some of these processes are too slow and sometimes are dangerous. Let's think of flooding or a volcano eruption or an earthquake. So in many cases, many teachers in my country, and I think that in more countries, they remain stuck to theoretical concepts and not practical activities. And we think that the use of practical labs with low-cost materials can be a resource for teachers, especially when well-equipped labs are not available. We take all our activities, or most of them, from a repository called Earth Learning Idea that was born in 2008, the year of the planet Earth. And every 2 weeks, we publish a new activity. Nowadays, we have more than 400 available activities that are published all in English. We also have explanatory videos in this repository, and they have been translated into different languages. For instance, I have translated more than 200 of them into Catalan and into Spanish. And from 2008 to 2023, we have had over 6 million downloads. They are all for free, of course. And at the bottom of the page, you can find the website, the URL, where you can find all these resources. This is a typical Earth Learning idea. Usually it's made of 2 pages. Sometimes if there are more graphs or pictures, it can be 3. In the first page, it explains what you have to do, what do your students have to do, and how to proceed. And on the second page, you have the teachers' pages, where you can find the age recommended for this activity, the time that you need to prepare and to perform this activity, which materials do you need, how to improve that, links related to this unit, and so on. So now I would like to invite, I thank the EFG to invite me to know this project, because I will invite you to bring your our EGU workshops to your area. What do you need? All these workshops are available free of charge, funded up to a certain number by the EGU in your area, in your country. How? You have to identify topics of interest and possible dates. For instance, I'm interested in plate tectonics or geophysics or whatever. Write to the GEFO in your country. The next slide, you will find the list of all of us. Collect at least 10 to 15 registrations and provide a suitable classroom for the activity. Projector, microphone if necessary. I never need a microphone. Maybe water or sand, because it's too loud to be carried on by the GFO. So I'm almost ending. This is the list of the GFOs of every country. I hope this presentation will be available for all of you. I must tell you too that next year we will not appoint more field officers. That is for 2024, but probably for 2025 we will want to appoint more field officers in Europe. And I have seen, for instance, that are participants from Croatia, from Cyprus, from what other country, from Hungary, that don't have still don't have any field officer. So maybe any of you can apply for this position during 2024 to become your country field officer in 2025. And I thank you very much for your attention and for the invitation to let me present this nice project, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Xavier, for your nice presentation and your invitation for EGU workshops. I think that it's a very good idea. EGU and EFG collaborate to teaching and to public geology awareness of the public. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Thomas Peko. Apologize for the pronunciation if it's not the right one, from the University of Milskovic of Hungary. The professor is also the coordinator of ProSkill project, of EFG ProSkill project, and he's going to talk about us for lessons learned from the ProSkill project. Dear Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to share with you my screen. I hope it will be successful. Can you see now ProSkill lessons learned from ProSkill project?
Yes, we can see the
slide.
page.
Thank you very much. So, first of all, I would like to give you a short summary about the project ProSkill. What is it for, and who were the participants? So the consortium consisted of University of Miskolc as the lead partner, European Federation of Geologists, Politechnika Śląska, which is the Silesian University of Technology in Poland, Slovak University of Technology in Bratislava, and Technical University of Ostrava, Czech Republic. So it's mainly a so-called V4 project plus EFG. And all the results I mentioned according to our survey relies on the V4 countries' experience. Here is the budget of the project. It was about 642,000 euros as a total, and was financed mainly by the EIT Raw Materials, which is a European Union organization. And here you can see the work packages. Mainly, the third one, building community among partners, was about developing our skill ecosystem strategy, which I show you here and try to explain the point in it. So, because I'm working at the Faculty of Economics, and I'm an economist mainly, and also teach service management, the main thing what the university provides as a service for the outside world to the students is a better position in the job market for our students. There was a previous project, its name was LIMBRA, which is the merge of three different words, limit the brain drain, LIMBRA, has showed that the companies outside would, as the demand side, would like to have students who has a basic knowledge in earth science, engineering, and so on. But the advantage for the students would be very high if they would have more competencies in the area and field of business activities like communication, negotiation, techniques, conflict handling, and so on. So first of all, we made a survey in the V4 countries and researched more than 200 companies. What are their requirements towards finishing studies, students in the universities who finished their studies, and based on the experiences which were in connection with communication competencies, negotiation techniques, and so on in the business field. We had research according to our students who have started their master or bachelor studies in the University of Miskolc and the other V4 universities. what are the competencies they have when they enter the university and start their studies. And after measuring this, there was a gap between the demand side and the supply side, the existing competencies and the required competencies. And the main task for 2020 was to create a strategy by a group of experts, I mean professors, university professors, assistant professors, and so on. How can we decrease this gap between the required competencies and the existing competencies by using different programs, for example, changing the syllabuses, what the professors use in their courses and teaching activities. So that was the main target of the project, and at the end of the day, we were successful. In the next few minutes, I would like to tell you about our lessons, what we have learned during the project, because it was an extreme one. Imagine that in 2020, in January, we have just started this project, when in March, COVID-19 arrived. And nobody was ready to meet these new circumstances at once. So we had to be flexible. We couldn't go anywhere personally. There was curfew in Hungary also. And we had to postpone a lot of things, field trips and other ones, and reorganize all the agenda and all the activities what we have to do in 2020. But we were flexible, and due to our effective teamwork and participants' flexibility, we managed to solve this and reorganize the activities, change a lot of things between the 3 years. For example, we have started with the Researchers' Night as a communication and dissemination activity because it was in September instead of the Earth Day. It was in April. So we have changed a lot of things from 2022 to 2020 and so on. For this reason, the first lesson was that flexibility is of vital importance within a 3 years project. The second was that regular meetings are inevitable. Of course, these meetings were not personal meetings, but for example, Zoom meetings or Microsoft Teams meetings. During these meetings, we discussed our possibilities, our problems, and discussed our possible solutions. And these meetings were regular. After the meetings, we had a memo, and the memo was sent all to the partners as a thing which you can read and remember what are the next tasks and what are the deadlines to be followed. So the regular meetings helped a lot, and it made us possible to reorganize our activity. Of course, there was a risk management plan, but nobody could think about a worldwide COVID-19 things, because more than 100 years has gone until the last worldwide pandemic had happened in 1918. So a new risk management plan should have been created, and it required also communication and cooperation between the partners. So without the necessary communication and the necessary cooperation, we couldn't have been resulted in the necessary activities. Of course, this is not a one-man show. So I, as project coordinator, was not alone. I had a lot of colleagues here in Hungary, also in the other V4 countries, and also with EFG. For example, Alberto Sanchez and Maria Lopez helped a lot for us, and also Tamás Miklovic. So I'm really happy to meet them. because they were very useful and very motivated to meet the demands of this project. So the teamwork was effective, the flexibility was very good, and we could reorganize all the necessary things which COVID has done impossible for 3, 4, 5 months. And of course, in this process, there were conflicts which are necessary and pushed forward the activities. But in case, if you can ease the situation in time, of course, you have to think that conflicts are positive things, because gives you the necessary impetus and momentum to go for the next milestone. And all these things would have been without any kind of results if the deadlines would not be kept. So deadlines are things which our sponsor and founder EIT Raw Materials wanted to be kept, and we had to know that, of course, we can have some change requests. Of course, we can reorganize the activities and program, but at the end of the day, the deadlines are deadlines, and we have to produce the necessary KPIs and key ICs or kicks for the IT raw materials, because they required us to do what we have in our program. And without the diligent work, we couldn't do that, but all of our partners put a lot of work into the project. They organized the field trips, they organized international competition for the students. EFG organized a very good mentor program. We had professional mentors who had the task to work with 22 students from the V4 countries and the 4 universities, to help them to find the way how to get a better job, how to lead a better life, how to learn better in the university. So this diligent work always have its good results, and in our case, the good result was that we have met all the requirements of the program. We have produced all the KPIs despite of the COVID situation, and in 2022 we had the inflation, the high inflation because of the Ukraine war. So we got a lot of help from the EIT raw materials also to go through these problems, because travel costs were higher, petrol prices were higher, and they took that into account and give us the possibility to spend a little bit more according to the inflation rate. So at the end of the program, we had more than 100 syllabuses from the teachers of the 4 universities, which were modified according to the result of the ProSkill project, and taken into account the requirements of the demand side. I mean, the companies who would like to employ the students who finish the studies in our universities. And these modified syllabuses are used now to have better results in university courses and the university competencies, what we give and try to give to the students. Here are those websites and social media sites where you can find more information about the details of the program. Everything is documented, and if you have any questions according to that, of course, you can find there my email or the EFG email of Maria Lopez and Alberto Sanchez, and we can send you the necessary material what concerns the results of the program or the syllabuses or anything else. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, you have the possibility to put up in the roundtable event. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your presentation and your conclusions from ProSkill project. Very interesting. I hope we have questions for the roundtable discussion. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Rato Valievski. Apologize for the pronunciation. A PhD Eurogeologist for geology and geological engineering from Croatia. And he's going to present virtual field trips, the upgrade for operational research. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Maria. First of all, I'll share the screen. I hope you are all see it.
Full presentation, please.
Is it okay?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Of course.
No, it's not in full presentation. We see the slides.
Oh. Just a second, please.
Okay. This is right.
It's okay now.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. And don't be nervous, anxious, because we have time, so it's okay to be delayed.
Okay, no problem. So to be a little bit different than my previous colleagues, they mostly work in some institutions, universities, institutes and similar, which are, of course, their job is one of their main activities is also education of a student. Me here represents some kind of user of their work through the education or through the results of their project, because I work for more than 20 years in the private sector in a small company. So here my presentation will be more focused on what we as people in small companies would like to see from this kind of the projects. So as you always know, we are talking about operational research. What is the operational research? Operational research represents the first phase of the geosurveys in the office. So it is the purpose of this is to collect data, literal, previously collected field results, remote sensing data, and all other existing data, to pass through all this data in the office, to make some synthesis, make detailed review of the field, sometimes use some models, and from these models or from the results of the operational research, you plan the field trips. And of course, here you can see the data gaps. And according to all data, you can drive proper research on the field. So as all we know, the field work is the most expensive. Sometimes, as previous colleagues said, it is not quite easy to perform it due to some special or occasions, such we had recently that COVID disease or some war areas. But also in the private sector, you need to look at any euro you spend. So the most expensive part should be well planned and well driven. So the operational research are the most important phase as a preparedness. Virtual reality can upgrade operational research in a way to enable better visualization and overview of synthesized data before further planning of a field work. For example, nice example was of the colleague from Cyprus when she represents some area with different parts. So it enabled to anyone who wants to learn something can enter to be presented in one easy and acceptable way. And virtual reality and such kind of presentation can also be helpful as a final phase of operational research. So the principal problem, what is the principal problem in such companies? The principal problem is that the management or the people who plan the budget of some certain project usually don't have background in geoscience and don't realize the interconnection between operational research phase and the success of the field work, because when you come on the field, you can move all these equipment, so results of operational research actually drives you on the field. Application of virtual reality as a virtual field trip can be fast and effective educational tool for someone who makes decision to be more profoundly introduced into relevant topic. Here you can see some, of course, it is since we are working on some small project, or we are also in project job driven, it is all made by ourselves, and such models, simulations depends on our effort, motivation, enthusiasm, etc. In this presentation, I didn't want it to distinguish, of course, work with the students at the university, because the learning process doesn't stop with the diploma. I would like actually to say that after you finish university and start to work, the learning starts then. The new technologies, of course, can support and to trigger the students to raise their interest in natural processes or improve their understanding of specific geoscience phenomena. Here you can see some my rudimentary model I did in MATLAB for groundwater flow, but of course, as we said, the people on university has bigger team and they can do it much better. What is actually the STEM? I removed the letter A because this acronym is a little bit older. It represents science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And maybe my impression was wrong, but that was like passions, but I don't know, maybe that's only my impression. So what actually means science? Science to apply sound scientific principles, preparation in operational studies that lead you to the field work. Field work leads you to the review of the results or supplementing. Review of the results lead you to the conclusion, and conclusion lead you maybe in some new preparation phase. Maybe you will know, maybe you will need to change conceptual model, or maybe you can close some your research. Technology usually, as I met, was neglected part in geosciences, in spite that results of geosurveys are the input for technologists. And also technology process sometimes represents a big laboratory that sometimes can simulate process in the nature. Here on this figure, on the left part of the presentation, you can see one landfill near Zagreb. It was Jakuševac landfill during the phase of remediation between the 2000s and 2005, and with concentration with some different parameters in the groundwater, pH, oxidative results, and conductivity, and also this environment was suitable to change different concentrations in arsenic, because this situation was somewhere in the middle of the graph. On the right side, there is another type of input for technologists. This is measured temperatures in boreholes in Slatina in northern Croatia in Pannonian basins for use of geothermal energy. And according to the results, technologists to choose the flash process. Me personally don't agree with the choice, but of course it was chosen by technologists. I think that in this part, geoscience wasn't consulted enough, my opinion. In engineering, also results of geosurveys are also input for engineering from different sectors. Here is, for example, oil and gas, civil engineering, environmental, etc. And should take much more proactive role in further after research phase. Here you can see also in Pannonian Basin some project for the underground gas storage, Grubišno Polje. It was small gas storage, and results of geosurveys was actually input for a mining project, how to perform the building of underground gas storage. Mathematics also, it is necessary to understand all algorithms applied in modeling and upgraded vision in virtual reality. Of course, it is my also rudimentary capabilities in coding that represents pumping of groundwater for some concession nearby. And what left to us, the letter A. Fashion as fashion. After a short time, the acronym STEM wasn't, let's say, so in anymore, and the new letter was added for art, and because STEAM. And how to include A in the art? Geology or related science are technical or natural science, and the art actually is more important and applicable than it seems on the first sight. The art requires some creativity necessary to prepare some visual presentation, to give some idea for it or for the lecture, and how to conclude. Each lecture or each presentation should be prepared some like monodrama in the theater, because professor should prepare himself for each class that is literally activity that requires some creativity and sometimes the artistic approach. In spite of that, virtual reality represents significant tool in data analysis and education, the human factor, because lately it is also always talking about some kind of artificial intelligence, big data, etc. It is, of course, good tool, applicable tool, but at the end of the day, the human factor is inevitable. It is necessary to prepare data, to present it in a visual, clear, educational, and in an interactive way. STEM competencies mentioned earlier are necessary to do it in visual and clear way, but the A competence, the art competence, is necessarily to do it in attractive way in some lecture, just to approach the attention of the students and to transfer knowledge more effectively. Okay, thank for your attention. I hope if you have any further questions, I'll be glad to answer it.
Thank you, Ratko, for your presentation. I think that the experience of a professional geologist is important to be related with education. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're moving to our last presentation for the second part. Mr. Professor Gordon Neighbour, he is a career leader and subject leader for computer science and geology in the UK. Also, he is a member of EFG panel of experts on education. And his presentation is for laboratory-based fieldwork, a tool for change. Professor Gordon, the floor is yours. You have shared your screen, so we're ready to hear you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I've not been in all of the meeting. I've actually just finished teaching some students aged 16 years old. They've got an exam next week, so I'm afraid I couldn't attend the whole meeting. So what I decided to present on was, is there a place for laboratory-based field work instead of, in addition, or not at all in terms of field work experiences for students? What I intend to cover is looking at why we do field work in geoscience education. What are the limitations that we've already recognised with it? Why do we actually use virtual field work? Does it have a future? And then the opportunity for discussion and questions. So in terms of the importance of field work in geoscience, Che Cruikshank, who is the geology lead for the OCR examining body, so this is one of the two examining bodies that examine geology for students aged 18, did a survey, and the three most important reasons that teachers highlighted for incorporating field work for geoscience in particular are, first of all, it's that application of practical skills. So we all know that going out in the field, we actually have to practice some skills in terms of reading the rocks, reading the measurements of different things, so whether that be the dip or the strike, the makeup of the rocks, etc. There's also this idea that lots of students, if you're looking at the subject from just the perspective of using textbooks, it's really complex, and we need students to understand how complex, how messy real geology is, and we need them to be able to make accurate observations and descriptions of what they're seeing. There's also a lot of issues around fieldwork. So one of the key issues that we've found in the UK is the cost for getting students to good field localities. So I'm lucky that we live in a geopark, where I'm in the geopark in Tor Bay, and that affords us a lot of opportunities for field work for students. But for some schools in the United Kingdom especially, that can be a real factor. Not all students are able to get out and do field work. So how can we get that ability for them? So there are a number of ways we can do this. I've done this in my previous school, where we actually liaised with local quarry operators, and they allowed us to have rocks delivered to the school so they could do field work within the school. But the idea of virtual field work means we're going to make it much more accessible for students to be able to undertake that role. So whether that be taking readings of things, or whether that be allowing them to record teachers are able to teach our remaining students. And that takes a lot of issues around that. The outcome of the survey that Che did was that the benefits far outweigh costs, and once students have experienced fieldwork, they're effective in actually getting other students to study the subject. So I think we all are aware that there are issues with recruiting students at university level to actually study geoscience. It's certainly an issue in the UK, and from what I understand, it's a wider issue across Europe. So that's something that we need to remember with it. But virtual fieldwork for us is something that allows us to empower students so we can get them to travel further away. So one of the things I've been fortunate enough to do within the last few weeks and months is we have had students have the experience of doing fieldwork in Greece, in Italy, in France, in Germany, but all from the comfort of their own classroom. So they've been able to undertake virtual travel and actually make observations of geological phenomena in those areas rather than having to look at the expense and inconvenience of traveling away. So it's part of extended reality. We all know that that's something that's really beneficial for them, that they can actually understand things in a safe way, but actually that look realistic. Virtual field trips also allow them to have experiential learning opportunities, so they are gaining experience through practical application of what they are doing. And it's a great opportunity for us to start using immersive digital technologies, getting technologies with which they're familiar. So most students will have a much better grasp and understanding of the technologies than we as teachers do. So out of that, they get improved learning experiences. Obviously, when they're taking the measurements, whether it be virtual, whether it be real in the field, it helps them to understand concepts. So if they're studying from textbooks, they're studying from PowerPoints, often they're studying in 2 dimensions, and we need them to understand the 3 dimensions that they actually would see the geological formations in, and even down to the 4th dimension of time and relating how these different formations relate to one another. They can be much more engaging. Virtual field trips, going out to places virtually, can be a really good learning experience for students. And we've certainly found in the school where I work that lots of students have gone away really having enjoyed it. And it makes it accessible, allows them to work in a remote way. So one of the things we do is we post some of our virtual field trips so that they can then revisit them and attempt to do some of the exercises again when they might feel under a little less pressure to do so than if they are there in front of their peers. It also allows them to collaborate, so they can collaborate with far off places. I've done a couple of projects recently with schools in Germany and France, where we actually worked on fieldwork in our own localities and then shared those with the students from the other schools. And it obviously allows them to develop their social and emotional learning skills. So this idea that we can actually help them with their communication skills and how they can reflect on what they're learning. It can be done at a really simple level. So one of the things that we have spent some time doing is doing some filming with the students where they will show each other how to take some readings. It's a very simple application of doing field work and can be done without the inconvenience of having to go outside. It also allows students to they actually are more confident in the use of things. So, for example, here, using the compass clinometer. This example is something that came from an examination board. So one of the things that forced me, and probably forced a lot of other teachers, to do with fieldwork was COVID. It had a big effect. We couldn't take the students out in the field any longer, so we had to find ways of doing this. This is an exercise from one of the examination boards. What they've given us is a lot of materials. They've asked us to make sure we had certain rocks available for the students to do, but also photographs and materials that they could then apply. They were then asked to carry out exactly the same sort of things that they would do out in the field. So designing the investigations themselves, creating risk assessments, creating field sketches. So from the photographs, they were asked to do field sketches, making notes from the samples and the photographs, and then putting that together in a final conclusion for the project. So this just gives you an idea of, this is at a really simple level, that the sort of work that students were being asked to do. This is age 16 to 18, so it's not technically very difficult to set up as a virtual problem. They were then given a map and they had to then plot the information on it. By necessity, I have obviously given a far shorter version of what the work is than others, but it shows that we don't need to have massively technical means of delivering the work. Another thing that we were able to do is take them to places where we would find it very difficult to go. So we worked together with the University College London, and whilst one of their academic staff to actually teach our students about folds, and eventually leading them to a virtual field trip beneath the Caspian Sea. So they were given very simple exercises. These are images that were taken from drones that they were able to then create a structural map and cross-section of the area that they were looking at. This is in North Cornwall, so in the southwest of England. And once they had completed that, they were asked to apply the information they had to a much more complex problem, so that of the Zagros Mountains, and looking at crustal shortening there in the area around that place. We've also been able to do landslides, so we've had professional geologists coming in and actually teaching our students with, again, remote sets of data from real problems that they have had to deal with. So they were given the scenario, given lots of information about it, and to work out if the road was widened at this locality, would there be a risk of a landslide? So they were given the geological information and a cross-section and information from boreholes, as well as sections that had been cut in the area. And they were asked to then plot this and to work out what remediation, what fixtures they would have to put in place to make sure that this was as safe a project as possible. And again, it's quite low tech, so we can do some quite low tech virtual field work with students. We can go up to the next stage. So I was really fortunate. Last year I had a team enter the International Earth Science Olympiad, and we were able to make use of the software that was developed at the University of the Côte d'Azur, that they were able to then undertake field work, moving virtually around a particular landscape, to enable them to sort of study almost self-led way. So they were looking at what they wanted to see and taking the observations they wanted to. The previous ones had probably, previous exercises have probably been a little more focused on us field work. Now, this is really exciting stuff when they actually use it. They are given a huge range. They create an avatar who actually then will work in that laboratory and virtually go out in the field. So really exciting for the students to do, really linking into artificial intelligence and virtual reality for the students. So does virtual fieldwork have a future? So this is the crux of what I was going to say. I think, yes, it has. It's got an invaluable tool to develop students' observational skills. And it doesn't have to be high technology. It can be virtual without being at the subject. It allows us to train the students in a very practical way before they go out and do the field work in the field. So we can actually get them to practice all of the skills we want. So instead of us having to waste time in the field, they should pretty much be able to start working right away at taking the observations at the real field locality, so we get better value with the real field work. And as I say, it's allowed us to have much better access to the universities and employers. So we've really had some excellent support from various universities, not only in the UK, but across Europe, who have done extra workshops for our students, which has given them a much wider experience and something that they really do remember. And it also allows us to attract those students who may have impairments to getting out into the field. So it allows us to get them involved. The only negatives that I can see is the lack of funding. So in a lot of schools, a lot of the infrastructure can be quite limiting. So the Open University materials needed really high-end computers to run, and a lot of our computers weren't capable of running it. So as we develop virtual fieldwork, as we develop AI approaches to the subject, we just need to be mindful. And I think, again, this is probably common across lots of schools, across lots of countries, that schools have limited budgets to replace their computers. We're probably looking at replacing them every 7 to 10 years, realistically. So we've got to be careful that we don't build stuff that will only work on the latest machines. We've just got to be very mindful of that, because otherwise we limit what the schools can do. And I think the final thing from me is it needs to be seen as a valuable add-on as opposed to something that replaces fieldwork. My only worry would be that some people would see it as us not getting students out into the field anymore. And from my point of view, I think it's invaluable that they have a combination of the two. So that is me done. I'm happy to take any questions, or can pass over to the discussion panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. The questions are in the QA, so we write it down, and we're going to have them for our discussion. Thank you for your great presentation and great geology teaching in your school. And I keep that virtual fieldwork is like a simulation for the field, for the really field work. Thank you. So we are finished with part 2 of the agenda, and Pavlos will take now. He's on the floor, and he will be the coordinator for the roundtable and the webinar conclusion. Pavlos?
Well, yeah, thank you very much, Maria. Actually, I count on your support also to engage the rest of the people in the discussion. Can I ask all the panelists to switch on the cameras so we somehow have a vivid discussion? Thank you very much for that. So I will start with a question specifically for our last speaker, Gordon Neighbor, Kiki McCree, and I will also invite Dr. Konstantinos Laskaridis to start this discussion. And the discussion is really, and I want your perspective because it's one you have a different background, especially Dr. Laskaridis, which is the applied geology, and Kiki McCree and you, Professor Neighbor, you coming with a teaching background. And one of the questions, and actually it's one of the ones that I also would like to have an answer, is that can virtual field trips replace the traditional ones? What is your position on that? There is no right or wrong, I suppose, but there must be a position. What do you think, Dr. Laskaridis, on this subject?
Yes. Not exactly. You can, but not in any case. We need both. In a situation like that we have in the last 3 years, yes, okay, it is very, very, very good. So opportunity for the students, for the teachers, for all, but not in any case. I think the field trip in situ will stay alive, and we need this.
Okay, thank you very much. What do you think, Professor Neighbor?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's a place for both. So I think for high schools, there is a limitation on how many field trips they can run. So from that point of view, if we could have a hybrid, a combination of the two, I think it's invaluable. And I think also the idea that we can have students being better prepared for when they do go out in the field. I think one of the issues that I found before I started doing virtual field work is that I often spent 1 or 2 hours in the field training them almost to take the readings before they actually started recording the information that I wanted them to record. So I think there's a place for the two, that we can use both of them in combination, and the virtual as an additional thing and a good training tool.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. McCree, what is your opinion on this?
I agree with Professor Neighborhood and Dr. Laskaridis. I have recently an experience with my student in the field, not virtual, in geological field. And I think the best practice is a combination of traditional hands-on activities and virtual field trips. I believe that virtual field trips is easy for our students, but we must take our students and go to the normal geological field. But I think the combination is the best practice for us. And congratulations, Maria Gima, Pavlos Tyrologou, congratulations all. However, what experience? Everything is just perfect tonight.
Thank you very much for this support. So I'm assuming that it's safe to conclude that virtual field trips can actually act as predecessor to the ones, the real ones. They educate the people. It may also work as a, practice, but then the real thing, it cannot be really substitute. I am personally, I also belong that to the thinking that you must really go out there and touch the rocks. It's very difficult. I mean, it provides the virtual field trip. It's good. It provides the foundation, but then also you need to go out in the field. No doubt about that. At least this is my also personal opinion. Please.
May I intervene for a minute because?
But by all means.
Okay, okay. So I think that I'm a physicist by background. Okay, so I have used physical experiments in the lab. I have used also virtual experiments, and I have used also computational experiments. It seems to me that you cannot substitute the experiments in the lab. Okay, but if you want to replace or to make equivalent experiments, you need something that students using the computer, they should take real data, not virtual data, because virtual data are like an ideal situation. To do so, we have to use techniques so students can take the role of scientists and engineers. And to do so, you have to engage them in computational experiments that can take real data and analyze the data. So in that case, the computational experiment could be equivalent to a physical experiment. And using AR, actually, you can have this target. Let's say this target will be successful for this engagement. This is my opinion.
Okay. Anyone else would like also to express his opinion?
Pavlos, I would like to call Dr. Yannis Saitis
By all means.
for that. He is from the University of Athens and he's a part of the consortium. Yannis, welcome, and please tell us your opinion for that.
Hello, everybody. So the thing with the virtual field trips, maybe first of all, I would like also to congratulate also Maria, Pavlos, and all the members of EFG of setting up this very beautiful workshop for us for today. It was very wonderful. Thank you very much. And going now to the question, the thing with the virtual field trips is it was something that was born, to be honest, mostly during the period of the COVID. So it was a very extreme period, very severe for us, the geologists. I mean, we were like, we didn't have any hands or feet in order to work. You remember the situation, and also in the universities it was a mess. So we had to do something just to work on that period. However, the experience that we got through the COVID period, it was like we might find in the future ourselves in this kind, or maybe in this kind of this situation. So right now we have a complementary tool in our hands. Okay, it's a complementary for sure, but we have, let's say, a backup also in a case, again, an extreme case in the future that we might find ourselves in. Maybe, I hope not, but you never know. We have tools to work and don't experience again the same messy situation that we were in the first year of COVID, 2020, 2021. So I think it's something good that came out from all this situation. So this is my answer to this. Also, my answer is in the background behind me, our project that we are working on that, and the trip gift. And thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to, let's say, open up this community and use these tools on our benefit.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I will continue the discussion, and by all means, if anyone wants to also to intervene, no problem, just raise your hand and you can take the floor. I will invite Javier One, Eva Hartai, and
Pavlos, excuse me, I think Kiki has the
oh,
hand on.
yes,
I
yes,
think.
Kiki, please.
Excuse me, I want to add something. Virtual field trips, it's the best educational tools for students that had some special needs and kinetics problems. It is the best educational tools for these students. We don't forget something like that. Thank you.
And also students that they're living far away from the specific geological fields. I mean, you know, or remote areas or islands. Here in Greece, we have many of them. So for these people, this works very well.
Anyone else? No. Okay.
Pavlos, may I add something, because
Please.
you started to asking me to do something maybe later on, but just you know, I have quite a long university teaching experience, and I'm also active in science communication. And my experience is that I absolutely agree that virtual field trips are really needed, but the real physical field trips are much more important. So if you can, you should take students and young people physically to the object, because nothing is more than the physical touch of rocks and seeing the outcrops on field. So again, I would like to emphasize the importance of the physical field trips. Beside, of course, I can see the benefits of the virtual field trips.
Which is good, because since you started, and again, I will invite, as I said, Miss Kalenu and Javier Swan to the next question, which is, do we have any successful virtual field trips experience? I mean, in different settings.
As a known, we don't have from our lab so far. The only virtual worlds that we worked on was the ones that I showed. So yes, we hope this trip gift project is a great start for this.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Juan?
In my case, I don't have any experience in virtual field trips, but I come from the field of science communication. I was part of an ancient project that was called Sites Across the World, in which schools from different countries studied the same topic and then exchanged their results and compared their results. So I think that communication, the human touch is very important. And I also want to add something that maybe it's related to this area, which are the data mining tests that we are using in our International Earth Science Olympiad. I've seen Gordon, for instance, that has participated in this ISO event, and it's very important for the students not only to have virtual trips, but also to access to these massive data banks that exist about geological phenomena like volcanism and seismicity and flooding. And they have to have access and they have to know how to manage this big data. And this is more or less also a virtual part of our geosciences that I know that it's not this project aim, but it should be taken in. We should care about this because we need to train our students also to deal with the big data.
Okay, Ratko, you have also raised your hand.
Regarding your previous question, when you asked about the developing of virtual field trips, yes, that's a very demanding and complicated job because it doesn't require geoscientists only. It requires also mathematicians, experts for coding. It actually requires interdisciplinary approach, and this project is maybe in this way, maybe good upgrade for a previous project, for a previous ProSkill project, which also pointed to the importance of interdisciplinary approach.
Okay, thank you very much for that. You may
Carlos,
raise.
if
Yes.
if I may mention that the 3 educational scenarios that we are for our projects based on real data, and this is something that will be the difference for the ideal scenarios. For the quarrying and the geological processes taking place on the Earth's surface. Yanis knows that this is in real data from field for real field trip, and also the extreme weather phenomena that Kiki is working is with real data also. So this is something that we have to mention for our project. And of course, the benefit for the collaboration between students from different countries is very important also, and with different geological culture, because students in Greece, they're teaching geological phenomena different from students in Austria, for example.
Okay, thank you. Eva, what would you have to add on all these things?
Pardon, would you repeat, please?
What would you have to add based on the previous discussion? If you have anything. I mean, because pretty much you said everything at the very beginning.
I just can repeat myself, but what you are doing, it's amazing. And I think that it's extremely useful, because it is true that a lot of young people cannot get to these places where they can do they can get by these virtual field trips. So I'm really impressed by that. But again, if it is possible, the first point is to take young people physically to field and doing excursions.
Okay, I have one. Professor Neighbor, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, it's just to re-emphasize, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to help make our science more accessible for students who have impairments, have disabilities, have restrictions on their mobility, for example. And I think it's a really good opportunity for us to communicate that out much more effectively. and make sure that they do realise that our science is an accessible science.
Okay, thank you. Javier, you still have raised your hand. Do you want to add something, or it's just been stay there? Okay, you can lower it down. I have one specific question for Mrs. Kalenu, and this is, would be all the resources be open educational resources?
You mean the Erasmus Plus project?
Yeah.
They should be, but because I didn't work on them, I have to ask the coordinators.
Okay, that's fine, no problem. I have another question that I would like to extend it to Mr. Skliros, Thomas Bacco, and forgive me, Professor Sarandos. Do you think that, I mean, this material that now we are talking about, it's of course orientated towards new scientists or, students at the high school or so on. But these will be the people that are interested in geoscience or geology. Do you think the same concept perhaps would be easily applied also to people from different disciplines, maybe civil engineers or chemical engineers that we collaborate? Perhaps we want to set up a new project in a remote place. We cannot afford at this time to travel there, but we want to initiate the discussion before the project starts and before we implement people in the field for real field work. Yes, please.
Can I answer?
By all means.
By all means, thank you. So I think that by nature, geology is, let's say, by definition, which is a heavy wording, is a STEM subject. STEM, not in the sense of separating subjects in the acronym, but as a subject that actually has inherently an holistic approach to learning. So I confess that 3 years ago, when I started to collaborate with Vicky Evelpidou, she looked at me as a STEM guy, and I look at her as a geology girl. After 2 hours, we realized that we have a very common issue, that is that I consider that geology is a real applicable STEM interdisciplinary subject, not as geology, but as a STEM subject. And I emphasize not taking separately the acronym of STEM, but the epistemology of STEM. So the ultimate scope of this work, for my opinion, is that it engages students in different roles. I mean, to make this project successful for the education part of view, not for the scientific part of view, we take a team of students. One would be the mathematician, because you need to take measurements in many aspects of this project. One to be a physicist, one to be a geologist, another to be chemistry, and another one to be, let's say, sociology, political science. We have different roles in the team. And this is a technique that Microsoft applies when they create STEM projects. Because, for example, I refer to my talk that the social cultural part of the project is also important, because not the education stakeholders, but the political stakeholders actually have an impact on the issues that are the study in this project. They intervene for political reasons, for reasons related to their election and such kind of things. At least in Greece, we have this issue. So I think that many of these issues could be extended to the engineering part and make another project that civil engineer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, for example, they could say collaborate with the geologists and the physicists to make another project of the same nature. That's my opinion. I hope I was clear about that.
Yeah, can I tell my opinion as well?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, of course, for geology, it will be a great tool to have a VR, virtual reality and augmented reality tools in lessons in the university and schools. As I know right now, civil engineering and architectures use a lot of VR 360 and VR technology, and also some augmented reality to design or to make some designs, to have some examples, to give some examples, even if the in the commercial uses. Right now, engineering field, as my knowledge know, for commercial uses, they use these tools. So I have seen a lot of examples that engineers use them, but I have never seen an example for let's say in mathematics, physics or geologists to use these tools. So it's a great opportunity, at least for geologists, but I don't know if there is any education material in engineering field, but I know for commercial uses, I'm pretty sure they use it right now.
Okay, that's interesting. Thomas, what is your opinion?
If I understand the question well, that was that whether we can work together as physicists and geologists and economists. My answer is yes, because nothing is hanging in the air. So I have a lot of courses for the Faculty of Earth Science here in the University of Miskolc, and when the students come, they think that economy is a boring thing. But after teaching strategy and strategic and change management and so on, and they understand that how the business world uses their knowledge and what are the ways we can go ahead together, then it's no more boring for them because they have to know why do they work for. As far as the virtual field trips are concerned, virtual methods we also use in teaching economy, because there are a lot of companies you cannot go in, and also you cannot go for a lot of countries, but there are possibilities to show what's happening there. For example, in service management, I use the World Wide Web to show how does a flower shop, for example, works from the point of view of service. And also you can show that in the virtual reality. So my definite answer is yes, we can work together, and yes, we can use the virtual reality and virtual field trips also together, and also in the field of economy or earth science and so on, and more it will be used.
So it seems there is a potential to explore there for sure, for certainly.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is also a good opportunity for future projects like this.
Of course.
Ratko, I have one specific question for you, and is do you, when you're creating your tools, do you apply geocognition's principles? You're muted.
Georecognition principles, of course, because okay, my softwares were based on the results I get previously, and if I didn't had any results, any previous results, if I had any opportunity to go on the field, I checked these results and I calibrated model if I was in position to do it.
Okay, thank you. Maria, would you like
Yes.
to provide
Yes.
some of the
Yes.
questions that you also received?
I would like to ask the participants here what is their opinion for the importance of geoscience for the society and the public awareness, and how that can be connected with schools and geology teaching. And this is something that I would like Kiki, Eva, and Yanis for to answer. Kiki?
I think Professor Hartai maybe has to speak.
I don't know if you remember, but I touched that point in my presentation because I think that it is very important for the society and people in general to understand the source of our resources, because if we want to manage our resources in a responsible way, we have to be familiar with them. So that's why I mentioned that we have to communicate this to society, where water and minerals and the other resources come from. So this is, I think that this is the essential point. I don't know if you expected this answer, Maria.
Yes, thank you, Eva. Yeah, it was clear for your presentation. Yanis?
Well, I think Kiki has to answer first before me. So
I agree with Professor Hartai. So
okay. So
Kiki, just call me Eva because I really do not like this.
I miss you, Eva. Many kisses.
Okay, for me, let's say, I would like to, not I would like, I usually generalize it because geoscience is, okay, is everything. I mean, we live on the earth, okay, so this is our house. We have to understand it first in order to live according with it and not, against it. So we still have a lot of way in front of us, okay, to learn about it and educate and pass this knowledge to our children. Still, we have lots of way to do that. But I think this is the most important and essential thing. I mean, to know our house.
Thank you, Yanis. Ratko?
Well, if I can share my experience from some environmental environmental projects, many public was often against some project, and during the presentation of the environmental impact assessment, we were oftenly attacked, fortunately not physically, but majority of attack and inconvenient situation came from the ignorance from geosciences, and they don't understand the concept of risk, the concept of what is really dangerous and what isn't dangerous. The importance, or maybe the better acceptance from the public came during 1990. 1919, in March, we had a big earthquake in Zagreb. 9 months later, we had also another big earthquake 100 kilometers southeastern, and people started to follow the discussion and publication of geoscientists more often, just to understand what is happening. I would also like to point, I don't know about situation in your countries, but we should be more proactive. We should have a more proactive approach, and of course, if some project with virtual reality as educational tool really came out, it could be a very, very good tool to be used in massive education of population in geoscientists, geoscience.
And Xavier?
Yes, I would like to talk about the importance of geoscience in our countries. And I'm not sure about the situation in your countries, but in my country, the situation is becoming increasingly difficult because of the curricula in most European countries. The amount of geoscience in them is decreasing, from year to year. So I can tell you that the education committee of the EGU is worried about this. And next weekend, and Kiki, I think she will be present online because she cannot come. But next weekend we will have in Barcelona a meeting of Association of Earth Science Teachers of Europe with delegates from Greece, from Italy, Portugal, France, Germany, the UK, Turkey, and we would like to produce some kind. We would like to coordinate our actions in front of our governments to give the geosciences the importance that they have for society, which is not recognized so far, and we should take actions against this lack of interest by the education authorities. And so if you want to join us, please go to the website of EGU, the Education Committee, and we will be delighted to accept any collaboration from any new country. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier, for invitation also. And Pavlos?
Yes, I mean it's a very fascinating subject, and thank you very much for applying and winning that project, because you raise certain matters and also you progress certainly in this field. I believe now we will have to conclude, and I will invite that the best person to do that is Dr. Laskaridis. Could you please provide a conclusion and perhaps a vision for the trip gift?
Yeah, thank you all. It was, I think, a very successful webinar and a very successful afternoon for all. And before I make a conclusion, I will say I will add something to the first question. I think that the next generation of the geologists will be more dependent and more familiar with VR technologies and VR software, because this kind of the VR software are very fast expanded. In a certain during the time in the Google, I have seen that this virtual reality software for geologists from September 22 until today is updated 22 times. I think it's very, very, very crazy. and I think with this project, we are in the right way. So, okay. The aim of today's event was the presentation of the program, the promotion and importance of modern education for students, teachers, and in general, secondary education and every interested body. Example of geoprocesses were given to better understand the relationship between nature and society. More educational institutions will be invited as collaborating partners in order to immediately increase the impact of the project. In conclusion, all member states must understand that the necessity of teaching geoscience in schools so that students and later active citizens can understand natural phenomena and, of course, the necessity of mineral resources and not only in their daily lives. I will close our today's webinar by saying that it is estimated that more than 400,000 people work globally as geoscientists, and geoscience will play a vital role in solving the challenges we face. So, in closing, I will thank the EFG for the organization of the webinar today, and I would like to thank my colleagues for their interesting presentation, which kept the interest of the participant alive until the end, with over 80 and a few minutes before more than 100 participants. Thank you all for participating, and we will keep you updated on the progress of the TripGift project, traveling you virtual through the new technologies and to collaborate more easier each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Konstantinos Laskaridis. Thank you all for participating and being our main speakers for this event. Pavlos.
Well, I wish you a pleasant evening.
Thank you all and have a nice good evening. Good night. Here in Greece, we are 9 o'clock, so good night for us.
Bye then. Bye
Good
bye.
night to all.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
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 Night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.